This is an Eye on Annapolis bonus podcast.
This morning we are here with Kristi Neidhardt, who is a local realtor savant. Is that the word? Or you probably wouldn't use that, but
consultant.
Okay.
I don't.
Okay, we'll back it down just a little bit. But one of the things that we're doing is we're exploring the world of COVID and how it has really affected virtually everything. And I've come up with sort of this analogy that it's like a game of whack-a-mole at Chuck E. Cheese, and you hit three of those rats down and another one's popping up in the corner, and you just don't realize how far reaching and how much everybody has to change and adapt to this world. And real estate is such a huge part of our life here in Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. And we thought that it was going to be a great time to talk to you, find out, what's happening, A, in the real estate market, B, how you're doing, how the market's doing, and how you're dealing with COVID. Because, it's got to be really different for you.
Sure. Yes.
Sure. Well, what is your background? You've come here from Nebraska, and you're, but you are a lifelong...
All the way from Smyrna Park, yes.
Okay. And you've been selling real estate for?
Going on 18 years.
Oh, wow. Great. Okay. What got you into real estate?
I actually started in the environmental realm. So I went to Virginia Tech and went to environmental resource management with my college degree, and thought I was going to go into wilderness therapy with high school students, take them out in the woods, teach them a different way of life. And I got out of college and joined AmeriCorps. So I jumped into some service, so kind of like domestic version of the Peace Corps here in the U.S.
Sure.
And I was a volunteer coordinator for our local Chesapeake Children's Museum, working with Debbie Wood.
Sure, Debbie.
Yeah. And so I set up their volunteer program for them, made it formalized. And then I was asked to stay a second year of service and help other folks build other volunteer programs across the state of Maryland. So I did that for 2 years. And then I loved it so much, instead of going back to school, I jumped into Hands On Baltimore, which is an innovative volunteer center in Baltimore City, which is primarily geared on having a menu of like 30 different projects a month that young volunteers in the city could do. So a bunch of volunteers from T. Rowe Price and just lots of the local companies down that way. I did that for 8 years. My last year with City Cares Organizations was in New York City. And in New York City, they have the largest City Cares organization, innovative volunteer center like that. And I went up on a Sunday with an air mattress and a suitcase. Monday was my first day at work, and then Tuesday was 9/11. And so my world shifted, like most folks. It's a pivoting point in life.
Sure.
And I decided, instead of fundraising and begging for money for causes that I believed in, I wanted to get into a business where I could earn enough money to give back to the things I cared about. So I would do a complete shift in that way. And decided I'm never leaving Maryland again. My family's here. My life is here. Husband, dogs, parents, brother, all of that good stuff. So came back and I taught kickboxing for a year, actually, when I decided trying to figure out what to do with life and what business to get into. And I thought I was going to flip houses. I'm like, I've got all these great connections from Habitat for Humanity and these other projects we've been doing. And a little, on a $40,000 nonprofit salary, it's tough to get up and running with something like that. But I got my license and I sat in Smyrna Park at what was then Champion Realty for a year, and I had to sit desk duty. And reluctantly, I was like, fine, I'm not going to take clients out. I just want to flip houses. But did that. A client walked in. I helped her find a house overlooking the Severn River on Rio Lane in Smyrna Park, and fell in love with real estate. And I've been doing this for 17 years, 18 years.
There's nothing wrong with doing something that you're really passionate about. And I think it's great that you fell into it, if you will.
Yeah.
And it was, wow, okay, I can do this. I can do it well. And I like doing it. It's great when you go to work in the morning with a smile on your face, as opposed to, pulling on your pants and trudging out the door and going, oh man, another day at the office. This stinks.
Yeah.
But you're also involved locally in the Parole Rotary. And
yes.
I know they've operate one of my favorite little, I wouldn't say it's charity because they're a whole part of it, but one of their programs is the Books for International Goodwill. Mm-hmm. And I know, every 6 weeks you've got the book sale.
Yeah.
And my little secret that I tell all my friends is that you don't realize, but they also have vinyl. They've got a pretty good selection of record albums.
That's true.
As well as that's coming back. So it's really, pick it up for $1 or less, and it's wonderful. But if anybody has books that they want to get rid of, I will suggest go over to, they're on Defense Highway, just before the 97, or maybe it's Route 50 overpass. on the left side. It's where the gymnastics place is. First Class is back there, maybe?
I believe that's the name of it. It's 451 Defense Highway.
Okay. It's in one of the industrial parks.
Yes.
And they've got a shed there that's open 24/7. You can put books in there. So if you have books to get rid of, do that. And every 6 weeks, look for the sales to go, because you can get some books just for some tremendous deals. And it helps world literacy.
It does. Yeah. The book sales anywhere from 50 cents for kids' books up to $2 for hardbacks. And those sales generate between $10,000 to $14,000 each time we do them. And we use those funds to ship containers of books to requested building libraries across the country, or across the world, I should say, not the country, but in the world. So we have our last shipment went to Nigeria. We've got one coming up that's going to the Ukraine. We had one recently that went to Mongolia. And we're going to have a guest speaker with the Mongolian recipient of the cast of books is going to come talk to our Rotary Club next Tuesday.
That's and what you do with the books? I mean, the ones that are, we'll say, saleable, that you feel probably you'll try to sell them here.
Yes.
And the ones that there might be a textbook that may not sell real good here, but it'd be just absolutely like gold.
Yes.
Someplace that wants to learn about biology or whatever it may be is fantastic.
Absolutely. In various trades. And yes. And we've almost reached 9 million books donated worldwide. So
what was that number again?
9 million.
Holy mackerel.
You're like 8.9 million right now. Yep.
Holy mackerel. Well, there is a big day coming up on Halloween.
Yes.
Before you go out trick-or-treating, if we do go out trick-or-treating, as it is. But what's going on at BIG, or Books for National Goodwill?
So from
you got to put your Rotary hat on now.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. From 9 to noon, we're going to be accepting book donations at BIG, and also doing it's called Just One Sweater. Lisa Sobrowski has started this movement where if you have gone through your winter clothing and sorted through and you've got some things to donate, please bring them with you as well. We're also taking hats, gloves, coats, any kind of warm clothing. Socks too, yes. Gently used all, and please clean them before bringing. But this will be donated to local churches and pop-up food pantries. The one at Tyler Heights Elementary School is going to get some of the donations as well. So they'll be dispersed across the Annapolis landscape.
Well, it really is any time is a perfect time to do that. But this year in particular, I mean, we are faced with hunger a little bit more going with the pandemic. Homelessness, housing insecurity, food insecurity. It's all a real problem. And it's not just for, it's happening to your neighbors. It's happening all over. So if you can do that, and I know I've got a couple sweaters still in the back of my car that I've got to drop off.
Oh, thank you.
At one of the boxes, which is one of the partners with the hashtag Just One Sweater.
Yes.
And there's also a shredding element of that too. So you can bring stuff to shred.
I did forget that. And then we'll recycle the shredding material. Yes.
Right. Is there a limit or anything on the shredding? People have asked me about that.
There is not. No. Bring it all.
So you just bring a banker's box full of old bank statements and
we'll dump them in.
Some politicians' tax returns or something like that, and we'll take care of it.
Try to stay with that.
That's why I said it. Okay. And I didn't specify which politician.
Right.
But let's switch hats a little bit here and talk about real estate. We know where you came from and everything, but what is the real estate market like now? I mean, I know we hear buyers markets and sellers markets, and is the market still robust, or are you sitting at home twiddling your thumbs?
I have never worked harder than this year, honestly. And we're just made to like the top 5 in volume for the county. So we're definitely up there, but we've done, I think, 40% more business this year than last year. And that's due to, it's definitely a seller's market out there. So we have a lot of breaking records for neighborhoods with price points and competitive offer situations. So if you're trying to buy a house right now, you're often competing against anywhere from 3 to 15 other contracts. So there are people bidding as well. And that's what's causing the prices to go up and rise. So I did the numbers really quickly. We're about 60% less inventory than the same time last year, and 10% higher in the number of contracts being written and houses being sold.
Oh, wow.
So we have very little inventory to fulfill the demand. So we were down from back in 2005, 2006, when the market just, ballooned like crazy. Back then we had a 30-day supply of inventory. Right now we have like a 28, 29-day supply of inventory. So we're back to those levels and we're seeing those kinds of price increases again as well.
Well, I know the area's got, Anne Arundel County is that primarily where your playground is?
Yes.
I mean, you're not out I guess you could, obviously you're licensed by the state, but you could go to Columbia, but that's just not really your forte.
Yeah. about 90% of what we do is Anne Arundel County focused. We do a little bit into Queen Anne's on Kent Island, and we do a little bit into Howard County because the schools are very similar.
Right.
But yeah.
But I know in Anne Arundel County, we've got a vast, you use a realtor term, the inventory, but you've got a vast range of things. You've got affordable condos and, depending on which part of the area you're in. And I think on the high end, you got a $29 million monastery.
Yes.
I think that's probably the top one that's out there now.
Yep.
And I mean, what is selling? Is it everything, or is it just, are you finding It
is literally everything. So, especially in the lower price points where there are more people who are comfortable with payments. So anything under 800,000, especially below 500,000, is very competitive right now. So as soon as it comes on, even before it comes on, sometimes you have sight unseen offers that come in. So before you can even see the house, they want to put a bid in and often over ask price.
It's funny. Last weekend, I just stumbled up into Main and Market, and a friend I hadn't seen in a while was there. He says, "Oh, sit down and eat." And we're just catching up and everything else. And he said that he lives down in Annapolis Cove. And he said that one morning there's this, and he's like, and it was a realtor saying that I've got somebody that's interested in your house. And he says, "Well, it's the one next door that's for sale, not this one, the one that has the sign." Mm-hmm. And they said, "Well, yeah, we know, but they've got like 6 offers in on that one. And we're interested in knowing whether you'd be interested in selling." And he's like, "Well, my wife's in Florida and I don't really, no." And she said, "Well, here's my card." Mm-hmm. And, if it changes, talk to your wife and whatnot. And I mean, he's fairly older. He's at the point where he's looking to retire and maybe, sell his business. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, wow, that's gutsy for a realtor to do the cold calling. But again, that sort of speaks to your point that it's with, with unsolicited offers, people saying, "Hey, I'll just buy your house."
It is happening quite a bit. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. But the flip side of that is that we often, when I meet with someone who wants to list their house and they say, "Well, the values are going crazy, so let's jump ahead and go for above the market because we're going to get it anyway." And I said, "Well, that's often a mistake, and it's been tested, and it often works in reverse. So if you price the home where we know it can appraise, so we look at the proven values around it and know that we can get to this number, and then you're going to get competitive offers, what we do is a technique. We say, okay, the winning bid is this. It's about 30 grand over list price. If we can counter back to them and say, if you will make up the difference, if it doesn't appraise above the list price, we'll defend the list price, but anything above that, you would have to make up in cash if it doesn't appraise." We're getting that left and right. And that's how we get the values to go up higher. And then the next house gets to use that as an appraised value and gets to push up higher. So it's not being overly aggressive with the pricing off the gate, but that's how we get the aggressive pricing, is to start conservatively.
Interesting. I read an article recently, and they were talking about, it was mostly like new construction. And they were saying that they've had to change the way they're doing, that the people are no longer looking for the 5-bedroom home with the den and the dining room, but they want maybe a 3-bedroom home. And 2 of those bedrooms that would have been bedrooms are now converted into home offices. Or maybe into a gym or something like that. And that's sort of as a result. I mean, are you finding that that's sort of in the resale market as well, that people are? Oh,
definitely. Yeah. We're seeing people convert formal dining rooms into office space too. So, because you don't use it very often. And,
right.
If that makes sense to do that. So,
right.
Yes.
I can do it for 363 days a year as an office, or 2 days a year for a dining room. Well, that's, and obviously I imagine technology is coming out. I mean, everybody is now to a position where we're all working from home. I have jokingly said that I would hate to be Edward St. John sitting on 10 million square feet of commercial office space as every one of his tenants is sitting here saying, "Well, geez, we can do this at home." My daughter works for a company that just rented 3 floors at 30 Rock in Manhattan.
Oh.
and they're at home.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just out of curiosity, I did I looked around and Googled and found out what the square footage was on that. And I'm like going, oh, there's a CEO that's just not in a good mood once a month when he has to write that check.
Yes.
So I just, working from home is just an absolute huge thing. And then I'd imagine gyms as well. I mean, I'm hesitant to go to the gym, and we've got kids working from home, it seems. So it's,
doing school from home. Yep.
Who's buying the houses? Is it families? Is it?
It is often, we have a lot of movement from DC and Montgomery County coming this way. For the exact reason.
Getting away from the population centers?
Well, not so much. They don't have to commute anymore. So why live in...
Why do it?
Why do it? Why live in a place where you have to be stuck in traffic all the time? Why not be somewhere where you can look at the water, right? And just enjoy life more. Just a little bit more relaxed pace. So we're seeing a lot of movement this way, which is part of what's driving our market currently. If I could harp on that. So our waterfronts are amazing right now. So in 2019, between 1 million and 1.5 million on the water, we sold 69 homes countywide, like the whole county. That was the number of homes, waterfronts that sold. In 2020, so far it's 118.
Holy mackerel.
So almost doubled.
Well,
we're not done with the year yet.
We're in a great county. I mean, I think we're the county that has the most waterfront of anyone in the state of Maryland, with all the
tributaries and
the creeks and the rivers and everything else. So I think it's and that makes sense when you say they're moving out of there, because why? Let's go into DC for a night out and maybe to the Kennedy Center or whatever it is, as opposed to living there and taking the metro. Okay, so we'll just be inconvenienced and drive in once a month or once a quarter.
Yep.
Which makes all the sense in the world. I mean, are you primarily selling waterfront? I mean, is that like, obviously I think that's probably every realtor's,
it's a dream. Yeah.
I mean, we all, there's only one monastery. Okay. So,
right.
and we get that's, sort of once, but I mean, is waterfront really, is this area, obviously it supports it, but is this the real attraction to housing in the area in Anne Arundel County, is the waterfront?
It definitely is. And water privileges too. So a lot of amazing community beaches around as well. So those communities definitely have a premium over ones that are landlocked, for sure.
Interesting.
I could also say with the waterfronts, above 3.5 million. In 2019, we had 5 total that sold. This year so far, we've had 10 total that have sold. So we've doubled that as well. And demographically, I think the other 5 are coming from not only DC, but also New Jersey and New York. So we're seeing some movement coming down this way as well.
Keep those guys from Jersey and New York out of here. Come on, Kristi, you've got to stop that.
Well, but just it's been a tremendous movement in the upper end too. So I love waterfront. It's my passion. I grew up on the water on the Magathie, and my parents still live in the same house I was raised in. It is about 25% of what we do. I would love for it to be 100%.
Sure.
But I also want to serve everybody else too. We do a lot in Davidsonville. We do a lot in other weather privileged communities. Our average sales price is about $660 at this point, and for the county, it's about $320 in general. So we're about double that. So we help the first-time home buyers, and we help the people with an investment property too, all the way up to the multi-million-dollar waterfronts. And
you said investment properties for the Airbnb thing. Is that a huge?
It is quite a thing, yeah. Especially if you're buying a second home on the water, and you're looking at also what revenue can I generate while I'm not here. There are certain seasons, and we talk about,
sure,
back when things open up again, the boat shows are amazing to rent out for a couple weekends, and all the Naval Academy events and stuff.
I know it was crazy when I first moved down here. I had a friend of mine. I lived in Black Walnut Cove, down off of Arundel on the Bay, and I had a neighbor that every year would rent out his house for commissioning week.
Yeah,
and he had a standing thing. The Country Inn and Suites by Carlson, which is over by Best Buy, had just been built, and he cut a deal with them to get their king suite, which would sleep his small family for that week. And he wouldn't go out of town; he would just rent the house out, and he was renting it out for $8,000 for the week.
Wow!
and this is back in 1997 or so,
right?
And I'm like, and he goes and he stays in this hotel. Mm-hmm. Which obviously the rent pays for this thing. They make you breakfast every morning. There's an indoor swimming pool. What's not to like about this?
Yeah.
And then he's got enough money left over, take the family to Disneyland and come back with a couple bucks in his pocket. I'm like, this is brilliant.
It's amazing, isn't it?
This is brilliant.
Yeah.
And I think at the time you can rent it out for once a week or something without declaring the income, because it's not or something. I don't know what it is.
Because the laws keep changing and there are different legislation proposed and so forth. But just to know that kind of what you can do currently and know that might change.
And you don't need to declare it as a second job or an investment property because it's only a certain number of times. It's
right.
Well, that's interesting because Airbnb has certainly changed the hotel industry.
Yes.
And turned that on its ear there as well. If I said, Kristi, I want the coolest house you got, what house are you showing me?
It's actually one that we represent the buyer for, if that's okay, but it's on the tip of Kent Island up at Love Point. Literally the Route 8 dead ends into this property. And it is just walls of glass of windows just looking out on the bay. And it's a gentleman who's moving from Northern Virginia and just sold his townhouse down there. And he's like, you know what, if I can work from anywhere, I just want this view. And I'm like, this is $1 million view. And the house, he's getting it for under $800,000.
Oh, wow. Well,
and which is Ken Island, just to get a little bit more
I mean,
for the money.
Ken Island and whatnot. Now again, that's, I'd imagine Ken Island prices, the bridge used to be the big detractor.
Right.
And it was like, ooh, I just don't want to go over the bridge. And that's really sort of perhaps artificially kept those prices low. But now again, with the work from home and everything else, I think you're finding that it's going to be increasing it there as well. I know I worked with somebody that was actually owned the Edgewater Fitness at one point on Mayo Road. And he was like, how can I get people? He says, you would think this is the Berlin Wall when they hit the South River from Annapolis. They go there and like, oh, no, my God, we can't, that's like no man's land. We can't go there. And I timed it. I live down near Bay Ridge. And I timed it to get from my house onto a machine at Edgewater Fitness. I can do that faster than I could getting to 24-hour fitness at a town center. By the time I got up there, I parked, I walked up the escalator and did the little, things. But it was just the weirdest thing in the world. People just have that perception that this is not there. And the Bay Bridge as well. I mean, I've got a lot of friends that live out there and they all say the same thing. It's not really that bad. Yes, I do. In the summer, I don't want to hit it at 6:00 on a Friday night.
Right. You just time your trips and where you go.
But other than that, how is your business? I mean, how do you show me that cool house at the tip of Love Point in COVID? You're not having open houses. You're not having, I imagine, or the traditional open house, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're not having, I know realtors at one point used to have like the showing parties, if you will, where they bring in food and all the realtors would come in and eat the food and have no interest in selling the house, but it was a free, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
But is that, I mean, how do you show homes? How do you deal with the safety issue of showing homes?
Sure.
I mean, your industry is, I don't want to say it's not safe, but I mean, you've got some inherent risks when you as an individual are meeting a virtual stranger in an empty house.
And if you're selling your home, having people tour through your home too, right? So I often, when I meet with someone for a listing appointment, I'll say, do you want to talk about values first or COVID procedures first? And I often get the COVID procedures. It's really a stress point for folks. They just want to know what that is first. So what that is we have everybody's required to wear a mask. We put a little sign on the door that says that. And we ask that people keep their hands in their pockets as opposed to wearing gloves, because gloves can be contaminated.
Right.
But if you put your hands in your pockets, you're not touching anything in the home. And then we ask that just the agent open the door and, anything else, and that they sanitize. We only allow 3 people through at a time. So we have an agent and 2 of the borrowers. So trying to minimize extra people or kids who have more tendency to touch things and run around. So we have that going. And then we also limit so only one party can view the house at a time. We used to have overlapping showings and love that because it showed urgency. Right. But this is, you have a 45-minute time block to go see this house, and then the next person can come in and take a look at it. On the seller side, we ask that they turn all the lights on in the house, open all the doors, even closet doors, just a little bit ajar. Again, less need to touch things, right, when you're going through. And so that's how we do things, and do things as safely as possible. And then there are open houses. We do open houses as long as it hasn't gone under contract first, which we keep having to cancel ours because that happens. But yeah, you can have, by CDC guidelines, up to 10 people in a home at a time. Often our clients ask us to limit that, and we offer that suggestion. We can have people wait outside till someone's done, and then we can do the next party through.
I imagine it's got to be hard for a real estate professional that has been doing this for decades to get used to that. It's like keep your hands in your pockets. And I mean, it's just a different shift on that. It's
honestly just a new habit, right? It's just, at the beginning of this, I said, we can either go through this or we can grow through this. And this has drastically changed our real estate industry, in my opinion, for the better across the board. Through this, we have almost everyone's doing virtual tours now. So you have a video ability to walk through a house, right? So you can do that online. We also do FaceTime or WhatsApp applications. So you can walk through a house and show someone the house, just the agent.
Right. Can you show me under the sink?
Yep. We can do things via Zoom. Like I have a good friend who's an agent, and he was paralyzed 11 months ago in a motorcycle accident, Justin Disborough. And this, I'm like, Justin, you have the whole industry figuring out how you can continue to do real estate right now. So you can sit at your desk in your chair and Zoom and do a listing appointment that way. Like, this is amazing. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Do you find that your people that are coming to tour the houses, they're actually coming to look at the houses with the technology? And obviously, COVID plays into this, but when I bought my first house, I mean, there was, here's the flyer, and it was printed in black and white on like probably day-glow orange paper.
Right.
Now, I mean, I can immerse myself in the room with, virtual tours and you've got, any real estate I look at has 70 pictures of every possible angle. Are you finding that the people that are actually coming out to the homes are more serious than a tire kicker that's just like looking for something to do on a Saturday afternoon?
Most definitely across the board. We still occasionally get some tire kickers. I think people for a while are getting bored and just wanted to get out and see some places too.
Let's go harass the realtor.
Well, just for fun. But then often they'll realize that, wow, we really we can see what we can get for the money, because now the interest rates are so low, our payment's lower, we can spend a little bit more, and oh my gosh, and then they become a serious buyer. So sometimes it's worth kind of going through that transition a little bit. But yeah, in general, folks are more serious about it because they're concerned about their own health as well. Like they don't want to be overexposed if they don't have to be. And
Right. I remember a funny story when I was married. My ex-wife and I were looking at a house, and it was in a relatively new development. I think it was sort of at the end of the build cycle of the development. And they had the model home sign out front, but they had put it right on the property line. So we walked in and we're like, hello. And the realtor, he must have gone out for lunch. Said, well, let's go check it out. Let's look. Mm-hmm. And we split up into different rooms, and she's like in the kitchen, I'm upstairs in the bedroom, and I'm looking, I was like, they've done a real good job staging this house. It really looks kind of lived in. And I open up the closet, and there's like clothes hanging in there, and she opens up the refrigerator or something like that, and it's like stock full. And at the same minute, on two different floors of the house, we're both going like, oh my God.
It's not the model
and
home.
And we come around and say, we're in somebody's house. And we go running out, and we realize that the model home was next door. We just never told anybody about it. It was just like, okay, it was just the most mortifying thing. It was like at the immediate same time, we realized like, hell, this is not where we're supposed to be. But what advice do you have for somebody that's buying or selling? Now, obviously, the first round of advice is to go to kn-team.com, which is Kristi Neidhardt team.com. And you are part of Long & Foster and
Northrop Realty, a Long & Foster company. Okay. Yes.
And they're based on Bestgate Road, right?
Yes, right across from Annapolis Mall. Okay. 900 Bestgate Road. Very
good. Well, I know Northrop sponsors a lot of the home shows, and I see there's signs all over there. But what advice do you have for somebody that's buying or selling?
For selling, just to reiterate that being overly aggressive with a price can backfire on you. So remember that you have to also fight the appraisal value as well. So to be cognizant of what it can appraise for, price it there, to be strategic in getting it above that and as high as possible. And hopefully not have to pay that in between the appraised value and the house value. But also with selling a home, we work with a lot of folks who've been in their homes for 30, 40 years who are deciding that now's the time to right size, I call it. So right. One level living seekers, that they don't have to do as many improvements to the home right now. If there's very little that we're competing against, sometimes you don't have to repaint the whole house. Sometimes you don't have to, definitely still have to declutter and some other key things, but less fixing up to maximize value in certain cases. Not all the time, but in certain cases.
Sure, the avocado green appliances might need to be.
But we walk people through and say, if you did these things, here's approximately what it would cost, and we get quotes from contractors for that. And then here's the return on it. So they can make a decision. Do we want to keep things the way they are, or do we want to invest some time and dollars into making it a little bit better to get a better gain in the end? So we kind of walk everyone through that. For buying, when you're competing against multiple people, it's one, to be ready. So to have all of your financial documentation all with a lender and make sure that you're pre-approved and know what payments are for different price points. And then it's to really have someone savvy looking out for you who can know to suggest things like, we have different ways of doing home inspections. It's always the same inspection, same inspectors. But at the end, it's a different expectation for the seller. So if you want to be competitive, you want to say, well, we'll take your house as is with our right to terminate. We get to do all our inspections, but we're not going to ask you to change out a GFCI outlet or repair a small leak under a sink, or the punch list of things goes away. So it's easier on the seller, but you're going to absorb that when you buy. Also, if you're able to make up the difference in cash above the list price, between list price and appraised price, that eliminates that fear from the seller. That's a game changer. If you're able to do that, that's huge to win against the competition. And also, it's to be aggressive off the bat with price. There are things called escalation clauses, which means I know I'm competing, so I'm going to put in, we'll just pay $1,000 over the next best offer as the net. That, we'll start at, let's say, $560, and we'll go up to $600 and only pay $1,000 above the next best offer. Well, the seller got to see you would pay $600, so then they want $600, right? Right. If it's below that, it just doesn't work out well. So
right.
It's to not use those, or if you do use one, to make it a significant amount above. But showing your hand, as we say, just if you want the house and you're competing against 5 other people, put your best foot forward. Just go for it all the way. And with those and a couple other techniques, and making sure that the lender is a reputable one that the other agent knows about or has the ability to call and talk to, also to give some the comfort level of their financial ability, all those things. Sometimes a personal letter too can help, say what they love about the house. And if you're selling your home that you've had for many years and you really care about it, and it's a difficult transition, it's nice to know somebody else really cares about your home, that they're going to buy it. It's not just a commodity, right? So there's so many little tricks and techniques to employ, but you want someone who can assess the situation, know the other agent, know the community, and guide with the best silver bullet to get you there.
Well, I will say, a lot of what you said certainly is true, and it boils down to also to use a professional. And I'm always a component on that. I can buy TurboTax, but I'd rather have somebody stand, I'd rather not come to like an IRS hearing with like a floppy disk in my hand saying, TurboTax said.
Right.
I don't go to my buddy who's studying biology to diagnose a medical condition. And I did a for sale by owner of a house up in Pennsylvania for, I think it was probably 20-25 minutes at one time. And it was crazy. We listed a for sale ad in the local paper.
Yeah.
And, the price and everything else, and it was coming back, it was like half price, and the phone calls. And I was like, literally it was 25 minutes. It was like, okay, just don't answer the phone if we don't know the number, and we're hiring a realtor. And because you do know the ins and outs, you do know the market, you do know what the market will bear. And you get to know people as you're working with them. If you bring a buyer to a transaction and you're working with the seller, you know the personalities between the two people. Realtors can be your best friend in the world. I know we had one up in Pennsylvania that said, "Oh, I didn't, we're not getting the offers because, a lot of people really don't like the way your wife had this one bedroom painted." And I'm like, I need you to tell me that I need to get a can of $5 white paint and, and paint this room. I really, this is we're trying to sell this house here. We're not trying to, audition for the next television reality show. All good advice. But again, the best way to get in touch with you, kn-team.com.
Yes.
Okay. And Kristi Neidhardt. Now, you said you also mentioned before we got going that there's another event that is going on at the end of November or the middle of November?
Yes, November 21st. It's a Saturday. So my team, there's 4 of us on the team, we're putting on a blood drive. And so we're asking people to sign up to give blood. And we're going to be at the 900 Bestgate Road location. Okay. You can go to our website or to our Facebook page, and there's a QR code that you can just make an appointment to come in.
Who's doing the blood drive? The hospital or?
Yeah, the Anne Arundel County.
Not the Red Cross?
No. Nope.
See, you know what? It's
the
funny.
medical center.
It's funny. I don't like the Red Cross, just because the times that I've tried to do, it's just been such a hassle. The forms and whatnot, and I was on a cruise, the whole 9 yards. And ultimately it was just a real nightmare to do. And the blood doesn't necessarily stay in the community. With the Anne Arundel Community College or the Anne Arundel Medical Center, if they take the blood, obviously that Anne Arundel is the first use of that. If
correct,
obviously something happens in DC or it needs to go someplace, it does. But I love the hospital's bloodmobile. And I think that, again, another thing that inside of Books from International Goodwill, that's another thing you should do is give blood. I know Wendy Winters from the Capitol was just a huge proponent of that. And, she had given, I can't remember how many gallons of blood, but I do recommend that. That's November 21st.
November 21st, 9 to 12 at 900 Bestgate Road. We're also doing the Just One Sweater campaign, hashtag Just One Sweater, and also big book donations too. We'll have trucks to transport to the various places from those.
You're sort of merging it all there, right?
Yeah.
We have no conflicts of interest going on here. So
if people are coming out, let's leverage the ability to give. Absolutely. Yeah.
How long have you been in the Rotary?
Going on 8 years, and this year I'm serving as president.
Regrets on that one?
No, not at all. I'm actually having a blast. Yeah. So it's been so fun because our average age is, I think, 72 in the club. I'm 48 or 47. And
you're like me. Yeah. Somewhere in there. I got the decade. Leave me alone. Okay.
So when COVID hit, we're like, we're a high risk population in general. And so we wanted to meet through Zoom, but I knew that was going to be a challenge for a lot of folks. So I brought in a good friend, Nicole Dolan, who's just great at systems, and she does a ton of volunteering and giving in the community as well. And she, one-on-one with each of our members, helped them log on to Zoom and get on. So we were all meeting that way. And then we just recently, about a month ago, started doing a hybrid meeting. So we're half people on Zoom virtually, if you're comfortable, you want to stay there, and half in person at the Doubletree Hotel Tuesday mornings for breakfast. And so we post on this big screen. We show everybody who's Zooming in. And then we do a screenshot or a shot of the room so that people who are staying at home can see that.
You got to get the county schools to come hang out at your meetings on Tuesday and show them how it's done.
It took a little while to figure out, but it's been amazing. And we've had really great attendance. We've actually had members who were snowbirding in Florida were able to Zoom in and be part of our meetings ongoing. And so it's just been nice.
Well, that's cool. It probably eases up on the meeting requirement.
Yes.
as well, be able to zoom in. A good friend of mine just joined recently, Gene Deems.
Yes.
I know he's all excited to jump in on that. I know he's been a fan.
Jumped in with all four, both.
He's got like 8 legs.
Yeah.
He doesn't jump in and off. He doesn't. Gene is on or off.
Yeah. He's all in. Yeah.
When we turn this off, I'll tell you a great story about the Lifeline 100 bike ride that we did together.
Awesome.
So, Kristi Neidhardt, thank you very much for your time. If you're in the market to buy a house or to sell a house, kn-team.com is where you want to go. If you are in the market to give away or buy books, Books for International Goodwill is where you want to go up on Defense Highway. You can get more information at parolerotary.org, and that has all of the different programs that you do there. I know you get involved with you park at the Naval Academy too, don't you? Or is that Annapolis?
We do. We do the Naval Academy game parking, which has been cut back this year.
Pulled that right out from under you this year.
Yeah.
The Rotary is doing such great job. I think it's exciting to see some younger blood in there. Yes. It's just a wonderful community organization, and I applaud you for what you've done in your career and giving back and continuing to do so. We'll check in about a year and see how you like that whole presidency thing going.
Okay.
So it's good change between now and then. But again, thank you very much. Folks, go to kn-team.com and check out the listings that you have. How many houses do you have listed right now?
We are down to 3 active listings and they're coming on today, because as soon as they come on, they're gone in a couple days. But we have 18 homes pending under contract currently. Good for you. Congratulations. Thanks. Thank you.
This has been a bonus podcast from Ion Annapolis. Please visit us at ionannapolis.net. Follow us on Facebook at All Annapolis and on Twitter at Ion Annapolis. And if you haven't subscribed to the Daily News Brief podcast, go for it. And all of your local news will be delivered to your phone, tablet, or smart device by 6 a.m. every Monday through Friday.